Mimi ni mtu naamini Mungu. Na I have no apologies to make. Kwa kujenga kanisa, I have no apology. Mnanielewa? Na hakuna mtu nitaomba msamaha. Kwa kujenga kanisa, tutajenga kanisa ya Mungu.
Is it piety or power? What is the nexus between politics and religion? And Kenya being a secular state? Welcome to the Tony's Pod. My name is Anthony Mutugi. This is just an exciting episode that I've always wanted to talk about. What is the link between politics and religion? Why is Kenya a secular state? Well, today is on the 5th of July, the beautiful year of the Lord 2025. And what a great time to be alive and witness a mega church in the State House. A 1.2 billion worth church, if it was valued in Kenyan currency, with a capacity of 8,000 people. Oh, what a mega church. What a mega sanctuary. This church will be built whether you like it or not. And actually, your president says that he owes no one an apology about it. Well, there's more than meets the eye. There's a lot that I would like us to discuss about. And everything that we're going to discuss about in this episode is based on the context of the events that have happened as of the 5th of July, 2025. Well, sometime last year, we were talking with a friend of mine about the pastor. Kuna huyu pastor alikuwa amekuja Kenya kufanya maombi all the way from US. That is when we had the office of the first lady. So through the office of the first lady, this woman, through the office of the first lady, the country had invited this pastor. I can't remember what is his name, but he's one of the popular televangelists. Kama unamkumbuka unaweza tuambia. So this pastor comes to Kenya, but at the expense of the taxpayer. So this lady was wondering, Anto, mbona you are saying this is wrong? Why is it wrong? Why is it wrong to bring a man of God to come and preach for the people of Kenya? I mean, Kenya needs prayers. Kenya actually needs prayers. Just look at the number of deaths that are happening in Kenya. Who would dispute with the fact that Kenya actually needs prayers? We do need prayers. Lots of them actually. Okay. But now, I was telling her, that is not the thing. Kenya is not a secular, is not a religious state. We are not a country that we would say we are under a rule of any religious organization. We are not Iran, we are not Saudi Arabia, where we have a specific religion in dominate. What are we talking about? This is what I would like us to discuss today. And it reminded me of one of the things I've always questioned when I was like, since I was a kid, I endeavored to become a priest. And I can just become a priest. Then I'll just be seeing people telling them, the Lord be with you and with your spirit. Lift up your hearts and you lift them up to the Lord. Then speaking in Latino, offering Mass as the greatest form of sacrifice. I'm a Catholic Christian, by the way, practicing Christian. But I think kuna ka religious fanaticism kalikuwa kamenishika. But quite along the way, I came to realize, hey, a minute, there's something called money. And for you to get money, you need proper governance. And for you to govern people properly, maybe you need religion. Maybe I thought it early, or I saw it earlier, and I've always questioned. I've always been a very inquisitive person. And I came to find that even though I'm a Christian, I'm a practicing Christian, even though I'm a taxpayer, but in my conclusion, I came to realize that religion is a necessary evil in society. Same case as government. Government is also a necessary evil. The government is not entirely good, but it's a necessary evil, because just imagine life without government. Then we would definitely go to anarchy. So that's why we always say it's better to have a bad government than to have no government. So if you are going to work, you're a capitalist like I am, you're trying to invest in your business. You want the security that if I plant my crop, nobody will come and destroy it. I need the security that I am safe. I'm not going to na wakora nikirudi nyumbani. I need to feel that my businesses are protected, all my interests are protected. That can only be done by the government. Only government that can offer that, because we can't live without that. Without that, then we are in anarchy. However, what role does religion play? I've always wondered, why it not for religion? Tungekuanga na watu wabaya sana huku nje. Because you usually look at people and their characters and you see, why you not a Christian? Aki ungekuwa mtu mbaya. Why you not a Muslim? Ungekuwa mtu mbaya sana. Okay, so back to my story of becoming a priest. How did I change my mind? What changed? Is that I realized, by the way, religion, there's more to life than a religion. That is one thing I realized. And then I always wondered, okay, I was baptized and called Anthony. And after I was called Anthony, they told me that I have to get the name of a saint. I was wondering, what if Jesus had been born in the slopes of Mount Kenya? Would they have baptized me in Njogona? Would the Wazungus have done that? Or it was a proxy way of the neo-colonialism that we have today? Anyway, all that I thought and led to that was, all these issues was seeing that, no, there are other people who are actually not Christians, but they live a good life. I looked at the Muslims. They lived a really good, some who lived a good life. Wengine unapata tu ni mtundwazi. So I realized it's not about religion. You meet Indians who are good. They have their values. Pretty sensible people. Same case as Chinese. And you come to realize it's not about religion. It's more about values anyway. It's not about which religion you are practicing. Maybe if I was born in Saudi Arabia, I would be a Muslim. Maybe, I've even gone far. Maybe if I was born in Morocco, I would be a practicing Muslim. And you'd never convince me that I should be a Christian. Why do you think that I should be that? And I know that since I was born, that we only have one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Well, that is the same case that applies with me as a Catholic. Ukikuja ukiniambia, you pray to Mary, what, you should not change. Someone might decide to change. Others will stick to what they know. And it is still okay. It is still fine to be different. Now, we have a 1.2 billion church that is being built in State House. It is the whole trigger of this story. It is the whole trigger of these shenanigans that I'm yapping here about. And as we discuss this story, I would like us to discuss quite a number of things in details.
Mimi ni mtu naamini Mungu. Na I have no apologies to make. Kwa kujenga kanisa, I have no apology. Mnanielewa? Na hakuna mtu nitaomba msamaha. Kwa kujenga kanisa, tutajenga kanisa ya Mungu.
He says he believes in God. He has no apologies to make. And that we shall build the church, whether the devil likes it or not. Because if you are against the church being built, wewe ni mtoto wa shetani. You are the devil. Shetani ashindwe.
Ashindwe na shetani mshenzi.
You remember the way we were called devils. Tunapinga maendeleo airport. We are against Adani, so these are devils. Shetani, nini. Remember that? Are you seeing a replay? Are you seeing a rewind selector here? Okay? Okay. Let's listen. He had more to reveal about this.
Shetani akasirike, afanye ile anataka. Ni mnanielewa? Naambiwa ati hata kwa magazeti leo ati kuna mtu anasema ati mimi najenga kanisa hapa State House. Ni kweli, mimi najenga kanisa hapa State House. Ni mnanielewa?
I have a person who really likes to listen to Ruto's oratory skills, and I really enjoy it, especially the part when he says, "Nyinyi mnanielewa." I want you to catch that phrase because he's really good at using it. Nyinyi mnanielewa. Listen to nyinyi mnanielewa hapa. Na mtanikuja tu na vida zingine. Whether on the rooftop ya gari ama akiwa kwa nini ama hata akibonga kwa hizi nini za hizi nini functions za gava. Ukisikia amesema nyinyi mnanielewa. I won't say, but take it with a pinch of salt. Just take it with a pinch of salt. Listen to nyinyi mnanielewa.
Tutajenga kanisa ya Mungu. Shetani akasirike, afanye ile anataka. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Naambiwa
nyinyi mnanielewa one.
Hata kwa magazeti leo ati kuna mtu anasema ati mimi najenga kanisa hapa State House. Ni kweli, mimi najenga kanisa hapa State House. Nyinyi mnanielewa? Hapa State House nilikuja nikakuta kanisa ya mabati. Kanisa ya mabati inatoshana na State House. Hata kwa maoni yenu. So, nasijengi na pesa ya serikali, mimi najenga na pesa yangu. Hapa nitakuja kuwapeleka siku nyingine twende tuombe huko. So, nilikuta mimi sijaanzisha kanisa State House, nilikuta kanisa ikiweko. Shida tu ilikuwa ya mabati. Sasa nimeamua nijenge kanisa inatoshana na State House. Na haitagharimu serikali ya Kenya peni moja. Nitajenga na pesa zangu kwa sababu kanisa ya Mungu ni mahali ambapo panatoshana na heshima.
Wow. I think I had noticed nyinyi mnanielewa around 3 in this kavida. But there are so many instances where the moment he says nyinyi mnanielewa, I'm always like, poof, it's about to go down. Listen in, because there will always be gaps. You know, the worst part about lying is that you will have to put another lie, you'll have to put a makeup of lie on another lie to make the previous lie look believable. And now because you have to make the previous story more believable, you make another lie on top of this lie to make this lie that you had made, make this lie look believable. You remember the narrative of, alijigonga kwa ukuta, all of a sudden, you are running short of ideas because now the story does not tell, it always does not give a gap. And there are always so many instances with that, okay? Now listen to this. This is where it gets interesting. Bwana Rais confirms that he's actually using his own money. Yeah. You don't worry, I got this, guys. Yeah. I think it was at this moment that I was shocked. I was actually not shocked. I was outraged. Because if you are a public servant and you are doing something in public space, you are building a permanent structure. In nyumba, if I was to build a church, if I were Ruto, maybe I would build it in Sugoi. Ama hauna plan ya kurudi huko. This guy, like, are you planning? You might be here for some time. And I'm worried about that, honestly I am. But I feel this guy seems like he wants to be here for quite a while. Where? Bwana Rais, I was wondering, if this story, it's true you are building a church, because the reason as to why I'm not taking this story of you using your own money is the amount of money that has been channeled to State House renovations year on year. The money has been ballooning exponentially. The figures have just been moving higher and higher. But now I'm wondering, kumbe it could have been doing much more. Because listen, an 8,000 capacity church, why didn't you tell us about that? Maybe tungeelewa kutoka mapema. It's not about State House renovations, but we are trying to set up a church. We are trying to put in the structures. Or, well, maybe the Bible says that the right hand, that when you give from the right hand, the left one should not know. And maybe other mediocre interpretations of the Bible. I feel that as a matter of public interest, it should always be in the public, because you are a public servant. Mr. President, you are using your own money to build a church that is philanthropic. And it tells about, okay, I just don't want to delve on the renovation budget. But I was wondering, could all this be leading to Kenya moving away from being a secular state? Why would the church need an 8,000 capacity State House? Why would it need an 8,000 capacity church? Why? Why do we need an 8,000 capacity church? I studied in Kenyatta University, and it's one of the largest universities. We had the Catholic Church, we had an SDA church, the Nini Protestants had their own place, and there was also a chapel within the campus. But they were not that big, and it is a place of research. There's more to life than religion. There's something I want us to look at, because there was something I was wondering, and I was wondering as I was preparing for this, why all this? Hata sikuwa nimeingia Twitter. Then boom, I meet with a guy who reminds me of the book Animal Farm, the character Squealer. Squealer, who got so fat that he could hardly see beyond his eyes. There's a man who, once he came into power, or once his people came in, once people got into power, his people got into power, he's ballooned. Kunona. So I came across Cyprian Nyakundi's post, which David D. and replied. I'm going to read for you where it started and what was the reply. I actually saw David D's post first, before I saw Cyprian Nyakundi's post. Well, let's listen to what Cyprian Nyakundi had to say. Then we go back sasa to reply Squealer. Why the church at State House was always Mabati. I think it is good that I also speak about this issue, because what President Ruto is doing is building a permanent church at State House is not just a matter of faith, but a clear overstep into dangerous territory where public property is being altered for personal religious legacy, and that should concern every Kenyan regardless of their belief. State House has always been a Mabati church structure, and that was not by accident or because previous presidents lacked money or faith. It was a quiet, wise decision to keep the structure non-permanent, so that in case a future president came from a different religion, they could easily remove it without controversy or constitutional drama. Without controversy or constitutional drama. Just imagine downsizing ati umebomoa kanisa. Kama ya Ng'ang'a imewashinda kubomoa, unadhani kubomoa church state house itakuwa aje? Well, listen in. When you build a permanent church on public land, even if you claim you are using personal funds, it still amounts to repurposing state property for religious symbolism that does not represent the full Kenyan identity, and that crosses a line that was intentionally never crossed before. If tomorrow a Muslim president takes over, what will stop them from demolishing Ruto's permanent church and constructing a mosque in its place? And then what happens when another president from yet another faith wins? Will every new term come with a bulldozer and a blueprint for a new sacred structure? This is why previous administrations left that church as mabati and modest. It allowed room for spiritual practice without imposing permanent religious marks on the presidency or the land that belongs to the people. And that balance protected everyone, Christian or not, from exclusion and forced symbolism. There's a deeper message here, because when the president uses his position to plant permanent religious buildings inside national landmarks, he is not acting as a humble servant of the people. He is behaving like a ruler who believes the presidency is an extension of his personal beliefs and not a neutral office meant to serve all equally. We must say this plainly and early. Kenya is a secular state, and no amount of private money altering the physical identity of State House in a shrine of one faith, because once that door is opened, it cannot be closed without conflict, resentment, and future power struggles over public spaces. So, Squilla had this to say, that the churches in SH State House serve the 1,000+ government staff and their families who live in State House. The religion, kwani gava, hoja, kuna servant quarter wase wanaishi State House na familia zao? I don't know. I've never been to State House, just wondering loud. But 1,000+, that's a good number. Those people deserve a church, don't they? The religion of the president is irrelevant. The staff will remain predominantly Christian, whether the religion of future presidents. So hata mfanya nini, hata kukuwe na president Muislamu, hata kuwe na president wa Hutundu, mujue the religion ya Kenya, it will remain the Christianity as the dominant religion. Okay. Kwani State House kuna kazi ngapi na kuna 1,000+ government staff? State House. What? I don't know. I don't know the structure. I honestly don't know. These are just from a point of being inquisitive. Kwani, how does it work, guys? That math, for me personally, it's not mathing. But umesema kuna 1,000+ staff, sindio? Why are we building an 8,000 capacity? Numbers. If these are the number of people you need for the work to get done, then why do you need an exponential number? 8 times the need. Ama people will be, kutakuanga na church fulani, munaendanga kule. Unajua kama Kang'ang'a yeye anasemanga vizuri, hii yangu sio kanisa, hii ni referral. Hii unakuja kwa zile zimeshinda makanisa zingine. Maybe sasa kutakuanga na referral status. Unarifariwa huko muombe kama sasa hii ya Ng'ang'a. But the number, they don't nini. Anyway, I wonder if I used to read Squilla's articles akielezea venye the economy will be changed in Kenya. Well, the president is smart enough. Even the Bible says, let's build a church for God. Actually, don't blame him. I don't blame the president. Maybe he believes he's doing the right thing. And there are so many times that he tells us that mimi sio wazimu. Maybe he's doing the right thing according to him. And it's okay. He's the president. And he takes the shots. But I blame Kenyans. I blame we, the people who voted him. Whether you voted for him, whether you did not vote, whether you voted against him, we take the blame. The majority of the people elected him. So we have to trust him that he's doing the right thing. Choices always have consequences. That was one, I remember that was one warning from the US when we were warned against electing Uhuru and Ruto. And there's a place I used to work, and there's this Muslim lady that I respected a lot. And she used to tell us that we were once told that choices have consequences. Indeed, it's true, choices have consequences. But remember, you can control the choices that you make. But when it comes to consequences, you don't have the control. You might not control the consequences of the choices you make. So always make the right choice. Always endeavor to make the right choice. In everything that you are doing, just ask yourself, is this the right choice? Is this the right thing to do? Then, if you decide it's the right thing to do, it's what you want to do, well and good. And so, right now we don't have control over what the president can do. He calls the shots. We were never warned about it, don't say. So, let's eat our humble pie and let the president guide us in his own supernatural way. Let him guide us. We actually need Christ a lot, don't we? We actually need Christ. We actually need Christ. But let's look at religious states. When we are talking about secular states and religious states, what are we talking about? Because there are some things I want to talk about the nexus between state, religion, nation, and the state, and what are the differences. So, we have secular states and we have theocracies. So, in secular states, a secular state ni kama Kenya, where the government is officially neutral in matters of religion. So if you are in a secular state, the government ought to be officially neutral in matters of religion. The same way hawezi enda kurepresent brand. I can't just come here, niwekelee tu brand hapa, na ndio na push on my podcast without their permission. It's the same way government is not supposed to recommend any Christian or a Muslim or whatever, because it's a secular state, so we are respecting other people's religion. You practice religion on your own, but do not encroach on the freedom of the others. Okay? So, do you think as of now, are you seeing as if we have an official religion in Kenya? Food for thought. Number 2, a secular state exercises religious freedom. Citizens are free to practice any religion or none at all. You can become an atheist as Mwaf. And the government would ask you, now, just imagine now, Mwaf, in a few years, if we are to put this thing, and then Mwaf is then caught. We Mwaf, mbona uamini Mungu? Do you know, Mungu alikufa kwa ajili yako? Mwaf anashanga. Mungu, yes, alikufa kwa ajili yangu. Anatusiana hapo na Kijaluo, hapo anafinyo. Do you accept Christ as your personal savior? Anasema iko nene. Just imagine interfering with personal people's beliefs. The third, separation of religion and state. Religious institutions and government institutions operate independently of each other. Nataka usikize hapo. Separation of religion and state. These two things must be different. Maji na mafuta. Religion and state should never meet. And when religion and state meet, remember the times of the Bible. Even when business got into the temple, it is the only one time that Jesus whipped people. Jesus just pulled a kife on people. Amepata huko anauza sijui nini biashara. It was like, where are my whips?
Where are my whips? Come on!
Man, you who have turned my house to become a marketplace. My Father's house shall be called a place of prayer. Something like that. Yes, but state and religion cannot work in tandem. Hazifai kukaribiana. We will explain further when we go to theocratic states. Tuko tu hapo karibu. Aya. Then there are laws not based on religion. When we talk about laws not based on religion, we are talking about the policies or the legal decisions that we make are made without any interference of religious doctrines. Remember I told you I once wanted to become a priest. See at me by this I'm Christo, I'm a practicing Christian. Catholic, staunch Catholic by the way. I try my best even though the journey of Christianity sio rahisi, but tunajaribu sote, tunamtafuta Mungu. But one thing I've always questioned is, why is religion at the core of our education? I believe in a secular state. Religion should be just a subject like any other. But people should be taught values. Values should not be taught in religious what do we call it? Religious education. That should be learned from the madrasa. About religion, go learn from the madrasa, go learn from the catechism. If I became president of Kenya, in as much as I'm a Christian, one of the subjects that would really suffer, acha wao walikuwa natoa hesabu, mimi ningetoa CRE. Yes. Because the first mediocrity huanza na kutoshika CRE vizuri. That's where we begin. That's where you find that doctors, engineer mzima anaenda na kufia huko Shakahola. Sababu umeshindwa tu na kuelewa mafumbo madogo ambayo Mungu anasema ameyaficha watu wenye akili, wisdom, na akayafunulia watoto. He has revealed them to the kids. And the matters of religion, I see them confusing a lot of people, and I wonder, what? Is that really? But now I'm wondering, we have seen political decisions made on religious doctrines based on the Islam faith, because we have different theocratic states, mainly Islam. Islam at least has dominated that. Then the other, we actually don't have the only Christian theocratic state we have is the Vatican City. Vatican City, which is a small and it's run by the Catholic Church. And I would rather be in an Islam state, in an Islamic state, than be in a Christian state. And I think actually the main reason that the Catholic, not that the Catholic it has its faults, it has done well, I applaud it, na kuna pia kwingine huwa natoa makosa kimoyo, but it's my church, I love it. I think the only reason that Vatican City has maintained that is because the Catholic Church has really nice structures zenye zinaeleweka. There's a proper structure of governance, and it's kind of ni kama kuna democracy fulani. When they go there, the cardinals are voting from different areas, nini. Well, of course, politics is everywhere, even in the church. Politics affects every one of us. So, bado pia, you will find kuna politics kwa church, na vya church, nini. Politics is everywhere. But at least the fact that there's a succession method makes it easier for the Vatican. Hey, but mimi, I would not imagine a Christian state. Hey, it would be so difficult. Hey, kwanza arguing na watu wana believe everything sijui kutoka kwa Mungu ni nini. Hey, it would be very hard. Anyway, Islamic theocracies, we have Iran, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan yenye kwanza iko Taliban rule. Basically your Taliban rule. Yes, it's under Taliban rule. Taliban bana ndio wana run Afghanistan. Unajua walichukua kicha lazima. And actually these guys have enforced a law where there is restriction of education, especially to women. Uko wanawake bwana hufai kusoma. Why should you read and you are a woman? Just imagine. Sad, eh? Then of course now Christian theocracy, Vatican City nini. And I would like us to look at something that we call, in as much as we are a state, yes, what is it, what is the difference between a state and a nation? Because most people, hata history nikipiga, they will be angered at me. Wewe unakataa mambo ya kanisa. Maybe I'm the one who thinks like the devil. Maybe the devil has possessed me to be saying such weird things. Maybe, yeah. Maybe akili kama zetu ndio ziko na shida. But for a person who does not understand, you might hear the word state and nation and use them interchangeably. But the government or a country, let's call a country. We will play something from Dinyoro here, but let me try to give like an introduction. A country or a government has two sides. It has the brutal side that has to protect you, ensure that umelindwa, hauwezi chezwa mbaya, hautaibiwa, fraud haita happen. That is the brutal side of it that has to enforce so much force to ensure peace and order and ensure that there is the right environment for businesses to thrive, because what they want is taxpayer money. So state is given the monopoly of violence. It's given the monopoly of violence over a certain territory, and it has to protect. Yani, gava nikimse fulani kibruto. You know that cool dude. I don't know, Gen Zs maybe amwezi relate na mambo na bullying in high school. But when there was bullying in high school, you'd find that some schools would get you someone to take care of you. Ama you just get favor, unapata kuna kimzee fulani charuji kinakuanga kibuli, but unajua ngole bully mfiti. He is a bully of justice. So he'll come there and you ida fulani nataka unisho nini li happen. Wewe ulifanya mbaya, najua ulimfanya mbaya, mimi sitaacha upigwe na wasi. Mimi nitakupiga alafu nikusikie tena. There were such kind of dudes. He's a cool dude, he's big, but he always ensures justice. Either way, we'll always enforce the law and do it justly. Remember, underline the word, do it justly. So, that is the brutal side of government. And the state of Kenya now, if we look at Kenya as a country, we have to look at it from the state level, where it has a defined territory, it has a permanent population, the government is capable of enforcing laws. For you to enforce laws, you need monopoly of violence. The government is sovereign. It is able to govern itself. And it is also recognized by other states in international laws. So, Kenya, France, Brazil, United States, wako na borders, wako na gava, recognized internationally. Kuna kwingine utasikia, this country is not recognized internationally. We do not recognize you. So, you cannot be given the brutal side of government. Why are we talking about the brutal side of government? Remember I talked about monopoly of violence, being capable of enforcing laws. when you are a state, kuna vitu unaweza nunua that wewe as a regular person huwezi enda tu ununue. Ni kama tu ni sukari, ati unaenda tu pale kwa mama Katile kununua ati sukari nusu kilo. You cannot go buying a missile, ama ati unanunua tu mabunduki. Ebu nipe G310, imeandika shopping list, G310, AK47 7, pistol 4. That is what only government can do that. Na kama wewe you are a licensed firearm owner, of course kuna ile the kind of firearm you can be let to have, maybe like a pistol nini, but the government has to own the monopoly of violence from ile wanapolisi, regular guns za kushoot nini watu, za kushoot wanyama, and even my aircraft, my navy ships, za warships. Hizo sasa ni kazi ya gava. Just imagine ungekuanga tuna gava, sasa kuna mse fulani pale anafikirianga mimi naweza kuwa mimi ndio OG huku coasts, alafu ananunua warship fulani hapo hivi. How would it look like? What would be the purpose? So that is the monopoly of violence that we are talking about. And then now from the state, the brutal side of government, or the good bully, let me recognize it as the good bully. Then there is the nation side of government, where, not even side of government, but the nation side of a country, where people share. You have a group of people who share a common culture. They share a common language, common history, ethnicity, or identity. And they actually have a unique sense of belonging. Like now, it is valid to say that we have the Kikuyu nation because they are identified by the Kikuyu culture. We have the Kisii nation, Kamba nation. We have so many different nations in Kenya. But however, we are intertwined because we also share a lot in common, whether it's culturally, as a people with an history. We found ourselves locked in the same boundaries that we didn't choose for ourselves, but a mzungu somewhere was there defining that kutoka hapa hadi hapa ni kwako, hadi huku ni kwangu. They were dividing it like a piece of cake bana, when they were coming to colonize us. And remember, when they were coming to colonize us, number one, when they were coming to colonize us, they started with the religion. Walianza na hiyo Kristo, walikuja na Bible. So are you seeing the same script many years ago after independence? Okay, so we have a language like Swahili that inatushikanisha. So we can have a nexus between a nation and a state. And I'd like us to listen to one bright mind that explained this issue so well that nobody else could have done better. Our very own Ndende Nyoro. Na by the way, gavu nishangaza. Najua kwa hii gava Sudi ako na zee kuliko Nyoro. Listen to how Nyoro explained this thing. I'll be playing this video then to analyze, because this was during the culture bill, and this is one bill that nilikuanga nafuatilia sana because I take keen interest on matters culture.
Mr. Speaker, even on the onset, it's very important to discuss also the soft side of our country. The country we call Kenya, in the definition of it, Honorable Speaker, is just boundaries. And I'm saying so because many times we confuse between several things. One, what is the country, the republic, the nation, the government, and the state. Honorable Speaker, what we call a country is just by the boundaries that define where Kenya lies. The other functions, Honorable Speaker, that defines what the state is the state apparatus, Honorable Speaker, the institutions of governance, which predominantly are made on the institution that guarantee the rule of law and accountability, rule of law, of course, through the judiciary, accountability through democracy in a house like the legislature, and also a functional modern state, which then defines the executive.
Okay. Msikia vile Dinyoro amesema that for the state you need for it to enforce the laws through the judiciary. It needs accountability through democracy. Accountability through democracy. And then be able to build a modern state through the executive. This smart brains, bwana. Sikiza akili.
Honorable Speaker, many times you don't talk about what the nation is. The nation of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, I've talked about the country called Kenya. I've talked about the state which makes the apparatus of the institution of governance. Honorable Speaker, there is also something very fundamental called the nation. And the nation is the soft side of the country. Honorable Speaker, many times, even economically speaking, many countries actually progress when they have been able to align their culture.
Alignment of culture. Hold there. Skiza venye genius Nyoro amesema. Nations are able to progress when they find that they have aligned their cultures. What are your common values? What is it that we share as a nation? What are the values that we share together? Then from there you are able to build a culture that is progressive and dynamic. So what I thought, because hii kitu nilikuwa nimeisikiza, I had had a debate back in February, hiyo time alikuwa na nini, tulikuwa tumeanza kupiga kelele online. So by then, what intrigued me when he was talking about the soft side of the government is that this is one side, the national part is the one card that is used to trigger your emotions. That is where, when we are talking about cultural, there are cultural values that ni mzuri, but there are also cultural vices. And one of the cultural vices that I wanted to talk about in this context of the nation of Kenya and the soft side of Kenya is also one bad part of it called ethnicity. Mutu wetu, mutu wa murima, or Dawe movement, Luya nation, Luo nation. And then it's all about mtu wetu. Mtu wetu akikuwa kwa gava, tutakuwa tuko sawa. Wakale. Toyen ako kwa kiti. Maisha iko aje? Toyen si yako mbele. Amungangani kazi sisi. Mnapata kazi. Sisi hatua kwa serikali. Unajua sisi tulipigia opposition. Okay, so back to it. I'm talking about tribalism, ethnicity, but not this one where you're not speaking your mother language because it's the only language you recognize, but there's a feeling that my tribe is superior over the other, and you need someone there who is of your language, who speaks with your tongue, to be able to feel that you are protected. That is not always the case, because even thieves speak your language. Even thieves, there are thieves who can speak your language. Just because someone is familiar to you does not mean that they are not capable of stealing. Actually, one thing I came to realize is that, do you know that 90% of the cases where stealing or robberies happen, it's actually done by, or orchestrated in most cases, by someone who is familiar to you? Food for thought. How about the people we are familiar with? Maybe they are the ones who are stealing from us. Familiarity breeds contempt. Back to Nyoro.
And Honorable Speaker, many times we confuse the culture and the language. That is only one side of what we call the nation, or a shared identity, or a shared values. The soft side of the country, Honorable Speaker, encompasses and answers the question of who are we as a country, who are we as a citizenry. Honorable Speaker, one could be language, others could be shared values, others could be even our temperament, others could be our disposition as a people, because, Honorable Speaker, all these soft sides of what defines the people from what is called the culture.
Thank you. What defines our culture is Kenyan. Language, we have different languages. We have some unique languages like English, Swahili that cut across. So, and the fact that we live close to each other, then our cultures are kind of intertwined, zinakaribiana. Although we have differences in cultures, maybe you find like right now, you might share the same culture. Mimi ni Mjaluo, wewe ni Mkikuyu, but we are both Christians. So our cultures tend to look similar. Maybe huyu ni Mjaluo na ni Muislamu. So his culture is different to Mjaluo Mukristu. Mjaluo Muislamu ni mtofauti culturally, culture experience yake ni tofauti na Mjaluo Muluya. Same case is Mjaluo yuko, not Mjaluo Muluya, but Muislamu Muluya. So Muislamu Mjaluo, you can try to imagine Muislamu Mjaluo, Muislamu Muluya, Christian Luya, Muslim Luo. They all have a different experience. So if you are trying to look at this, you have to look at the religion that you've been practicing. Maybe hata mwingine ni Mkikuyu na he practices the Gikuyu religion. Maybe that is his culture. That is different from mtu mwenye is a Christian Kikuyu. And there are those differences. But however, in between those differences zenye tuko nazo, what are the same values that we share? Language could be one of them, English, Swahili. Then our differences in language, we borrow a word from here. Sheng is also another language that we can define as one of the Kenyan languages, because I feel that Sheng is going to be like one day like the Niger Pidgin. The way Wanaija walichukuanga English na wakai colonize in their own way and created their own special language. And their beauty is that they've understood themselves as a nation. Wako na mashida mingi, but language ain't a problem in Niger. The Pidgin is understood. Their Pidgin is understood in the whole of the country. So, I'm wondering, 60 years down the line, because I'm a student of culture, have we really identified what are our shared values as Christians, Muslims? Have we identified what are our values when we come from different cultural backgrounds or ethnic backgrounds? Let me use the word ethnic so that we can refer to the Gikuyu, Meru versus Luo, and stop feeling that just because I was born in this ethnic community, I'm okay, or I'm superior to the other. Mimi ni mtu wa Murima, sina shida. Mimi si kama hawa Wajaluo ni wabaya. Are you past looking at the problem being the ethnicity of someone or where they come from or the religion they practice, and actually look at people from the perspective of the values that they bring? Because kama unaweza ibiwa na mtu wa kwenyu ama upate uko na bishti fulani Luo. You know, one thing, like mimi nilikuwa, I was warned against by some lady that I respected, an old lady of mine. Akaniambia, usijaribu kwa Mkikuyu, ukiwa Mkikuyu, itakuwa shida tu. And that's how I lost a good girl, a beautiful Kikuyu girl, kwa sababu nilikuwa nimewekwa hiyo mentality ya nisioe Mkikuyu. So I look back and I think, maybe I made the wrong decision. It was it's not the culture that has an issue. Maybe shoshi yangu alikuwa na issue na hiyo culture, lakini by the way, udema kuanga na noma. Udema hata maybe tungebuild na yeye. You never know, but it's not a regret, but those are things that you learn on the way. Nani has more to tell us about culture. Oh, before I go about culture, I was talking about the shared values. There was an episode nilikuwa nauliza, like, when it comes to values, musically, what is our Kenyan sound? We've talked about the language that Kina Niger have. Let's talk about sound. They have their sound, Afrobeat. What is the sound of Kenya? What is the sound of Kenya? If you want to listen to that episode, link tunaweke hapa hivi. Usikose kukumbuka hiyo producer.
Honorable Speaker, in this modern era, it is beholden upon all of us. And that is why culture is always actually not static, Honorable Speaker. It is progressive and dynamic. It behoves all of us to look at the segments of our culture, which then brings identities that are static. Identities, Honorable Speaker, that then brings about fault lines in the relationships of the people. And that is why many countries, Honorable Speaker, have had many people with different cultures, but they came together to find an overarching culture, a shared value across. That is why a country like Switzerland is actually more fragmented in terms of ethnicities than Kenya. But when you look at it, it is more cohesive. A country like Tanzania, Honorable Speaker, is more fragmented in terms of ethnicities. But when you go to Arusha or Dar es Salaam, and you ask anyone which tribe you come from, the first thing they ask you is, are you Kenyan? And Honorable Speaker, what I'm just trying to say is that it is important progressively. It may not happen very suddenly. Progressively, that for a country to actually thrive economically, they have to pull in one direction. And for a people to pull in one direction, they have to be the same people. That homogeneity of the people, Honorable Speaker, comes about by coming up with a culture that overacts and a culture that is shared across all people. People could be speaking different languages. People could be different even in their appearance, Honorable Speaker, but it is important, even for a country to thrive, that we pull in one direction. And for us to pull in one direction,
pulling in one direction, unity of purpose. I remember a video that explains about unity of purpose. How you can be pushing a cart, you are trying to push a cart. One is pushing it to this side, another one is pulling. Kazi ya kuosha mbuzi miguu. Huyu anapeleka huku, huyu mwingine anarudisha huku. And others have a unity of purpose. They are working towards the same direction. Kenyans, with the different nations that we have, what Ndindi Nyoro is trying to explain is that we still have to, or what I would say, I would challenge ourselves is that we still have to find our defined shared values. Because if, according to what Nyoro is saying, he talked about accountability being stemmed from democracy. However, have we been able to bring accountability in our government through democracy? However, no. We are not doing that. Actually, what we are doing is to demonstrate our craziness. We are supposed to demonstrate accountability, a value of accountability, because that is what we represent. However, as the corrupt nation we are, we've exuded the same values on exponential levels. And that's why I was saying that I actually don't blame the president, because actually in his thought process, he thinks he's doing the right thing. And you can never convince someone who believes that he is doing the right thing. What are you telling me? I'm doing the right thing. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's us. It trickles down to the nation. What are the same common values? And that is where now the rain has started beating. The values of ethnicity are slowly crumbling like a cookie. It's like the dominoes are falling. That narrative is not working. Remember when Murkomen was talking about, Kikuyu, they had come from Kikuyu, Muranga, Nyeri, and where? I don't remember which other place alikuwa amesema. I think and Kiambu. And trying to make it an ethnic issue. Remember, we've said that mambo ni emotions, so they are trying to kuguza the soft part of the country, the nation part. Hiyo ndio unaguza. But now, they are guzzling it in a bad way. Then we also have this other guy who uses it in steroids. Mr. One-Time, Rigiji, Wamunyoro. Everything has to be about walikuwa watufanyie, walikuwa nini, ilikuwa, yani kila kitu, it's an ethnic problem. Not a Kenya problem. Unachukulianga tu mashida ni watu wa Murima. Na sisi wenye si wa Murima. Si ni Makuzo. I had forgotten. Sorry. Anyway, back to the genius of Nyoro. This is one of the genius tabling of or arguments that I've ever heard in the Parliament of Kenya. One of the few that stand out, by the way. Give someone his flowers when he's alive.
And for us to pull in one direction, we first of all have to deal with the fault lines. We have to deal, Honorable Speaker, with things that divide us and find an overarching culture and shared values that bring us together as a people. And upon that, Honorable Speaker, the beauty is that we always have a chance. As a country, we have a chance. As a continent, we have a chance, Honorable Speaker, so that we can define ourselves, Honorable Speaker, through an overarching identity, and an identity that which is not static, but which is fluid. Honorable Speaker,
an identity that is not static and that is fluid, that we need to find our shared values, and that is coming. Remember, I was talking about hizo my ethnicities zenye wanatumia, and the cookie is now crumbling. Gen Z have actually changed that. Remember when they said it was an ethnic issue and people got out and said, no, I'm a Kalenjin na nilikuwa maandamano, I'm a Luo na nilikuwa maandamano, so don't talk about this being a Wakikuyu issue. That cookie is just crumbling. And the beauty about it is that now the Gen Z are trying to understand. As a social scientist, I'm seeing a cultural situation where the Gen Zs, despite their different cultures, different religions, languages, as a people, a common people of Kenya, are trying to understand what are the values that we represent. They're looking at their leaders and saying, no, you guys don't represent our values. Yes, you might have the money, but you don't represent what we are for. And so we don't think that just because we come from the same culture, just because you are my fellow Kikuyu, that does not mean that we share the same values. That is now where we are coming to issues of accountability. So it's no longer about where you are from, but about accountability. And actually, Ruto predicted it. He said that the politics of ethnicity are just moving away. We are moving away from that. Hiyo haibambi. Ile inabamba sana ni politics ya issues. Okay. Maybe Kinge Muramba ama. We don't know. Let's not foreshadow. Back to Nyoro.
Speaker, most of the static identities are the ones that pull people apart. For example, when you are born in speaking in a different language, Honorable Speaker, many times, therefore, in that particular ethnicity you come from, you may never be able to change it in your lifetime. But, Honorable Speaker, also, another static identity that we always have to live with, Honorable Speaker, many times it comes as religion. Honorable Speaker, there are also other fundamentally static identities. But the current era, the modern age of nation building, Honorable Speaker, departs from those static identities and chaperones and comes up, Honorable Speaker, with a fluid identity where people can cross over. In the identities that are static, you can't cross over. But in a fluid identity that brings people together, it becomes a big bus where anyone can get in, Honorable Speaker, and it becomes an identity where anyone can cross over, Honorable Speaker, and feel they belong. And I believe that is what we must do as the leadership.
He's talking about a static identity. A static identity in this case, kulingana venye I may express, maybe I'm overthinking but in my idea, I'll give the example of ethnicity. Negative ethnicity, tribalism, to yeke tu hapo. Let me use the word tribalism. It would make more sense to use the word tribalism. So this static, we are moving away from ukabila. Ile inabamba sana Joni ni hii. Wewe ni Mkisii lakini mimi ni Mkikuyu, tunaelewana. Wana kwanga moyo wangu Mkamba. Umse mamake ni Mkamba, babake ni Mjaluo. Intermixing, intermarrying and understanding that this is a Muslim guy, but this is a cool guy. By the way, I used to be, I think, religiously brainwashed, and I would wonder, kama msee ni si Mkristo, ataingia mbinguni kweli? Well, that was not until I met Hamid Maka, may he rest in peace. And I'll tell you why Hamid Maka died. Hamid Maka is among the people who died because the government that is able to afford it was the government that is able to afford a 1.2 billion, 8,000 capacity church was not able to build a bridge in Enzio River. And it swept away a bus that carried choir members and other people who were attending a service, a wedding ceremony. That bus, St. Joseph Seminary School in Mwingi, it was swept away with quite a good number of people. And among the people that I knew was actually Hamid Maka. Hamid Maka helped me appreciate Islam, because he was a practicing Islam, and I really thought that if I was a Muslim, I would have liked to be a Muslim like Hamid. However, Hamid died because of a government that could not build a bridge. An avoidable accident. That accident was avoidable because we pay taxes. So at least we deserve a bridge. Is it the first time that we are talking about the Enzio River Bridge? No, not the first time. Anyway, also literally we are moving away from that bad tribal culture to something better, understanding that kumbe kuna mse anaweza kuwa Muislamu na kuwa mse mfiti and is good at his job. Very nice, very nice. Kumbe kuna mse fulani hata si wa kwetu, ni mtaita, but give him the job, he'll get the job done. And that is where we missed this problem of having a cultural outlook. I was looking at a ticket of maybe Maraga and Mutata, alafu wakuja wasema itakaa ni kama mmetoka western side moja, so ndio isikae hivyo. What is the problem? Even if they are to come from the same, hata kama president na deputy president wote ni wa Kikuyu, ama wote ni wa Kisii, ama wote ni wa Luya, ama hata wakuwe wao ni wa Choge or the most random ethnicity ever, but they are doing the right thing. What is the problem? Because is the problem the ethnicity, the outlook, or getting things done? Well, let's hope that after these Gen Z changes that we've seen, because for me, I know it's not a matter of if things will change, it's just when. Maybe 2027, if not 2027, not past the 2032. Not past the 2032. Anyway, the genius of Nyoro, to conclude.
I believe that is what we must do as the leadership of our country, as the leadership of our continent, because I believe together as a continent, we are one people. We just have to fight that one commonality, because together, and especially as Africa, we are one people, Honorable Speaker. We must act as one people. We must pull in one direction so that our continent can actually have better days ahead. And even the same should percolate to the individual states, to the individual nations, Honorable Speaker, to the individual countries, so that we continue building a cohesive society. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Sounds like the Hegelian philosophy or something of that type. Let's hear from Honorable.
We, makofi Tundidi Nyoro, makofi. We, lakini Mungu kuangi fair. All those brains, unaweka mse brain, ungekuwa brain ni engine, but si hata brain inapimangwa na CC. Sasa kuna mse mmoja, mimi naonanga brain ya Ndidi Nyoro ni V12 engine. V12 engine. Sasa unataka brain ya V12 yagi na brain ya Kasuzuki Alto. Wenyewe bunge kuna watu naonanga, ni vile sitaki kutaja majina. Kuna watu naonanga wakiongea. Yaani unaona huyu mtu mental thinking capacity yake not sized kidogo, you just uko unajua kukula chakula vizuri. Uko unajua kuvaa. Hesabu ya kuiba pale ukiulizwa uliiba ngapi, hiyo kidogo ya kugawagawa chakula pale, tubasari kidogo hapa na pale. Lakini proper brains like this have actually been ignored. Hey, ningekuanga rais na kuambia ile kazi Ndindi Nyoro angekuanga nayo. Wewe. Noma sana. Just want to conclude. And this is what I had to say. This is what I have to say. Kenya is a secular state, a nation that by law and constitution does not favor any religion. It actually guarantees the freedom of worship and separates religion from governance. That means that leadership decisions should prioritize universal values like justice, equity, and service, not just religious symbolism and personal faith gestures funded by public money. This whole controversy of a 1.2 billion church being built inside State House. In the same countries where we are battling hunger, the healthcare system is just crumbling. We lack medical supplies. We actually don't have enough to pay our doctors. Children learn under trees. Look at our education system. What happened to health? Look at our universities. They are going bankrupt. We are so confused with our CBC system. We are not able to give enough money to our schools, capitation money. In a country with so many problems, we have a billionaire sanctuary that is being erected at the very seat of government, and with our own president declaring that he owes no one an apology. Well, this is not a matter about religion. It's not a matter about religion, actually. If you ask me, I'll tell you that this is a matter of opulence against frugality. Frugality, where you just cannot put priorities right. You don't have, I think the most frugal president we've had was Kibaki. But instead of, what we are seeing is just opulence, yet what we actually need is frugality. Look at our debts, look at the problems we have. What are the priorities? Are our priorities a church or fixing the economy? Fixing our education? We don't have enough money to feed our soldiers. We don't have enough money to buy them lunch. Guy, I was hearing Ngoni joking about how mafande sawa watakuwa nakula kibandanski. And it's not funny. It's not funny. Anyway, what we are seeing is just theocratic theatrics. And they're just coming slowly to Kenya. Mm-hmm. And it's a system, we are supposed to have a governance system that serves all Kenyans. All. Not a majority. Not because a majority are Christians. Even I being among the majority Christians. Because the president is Christian and we share the same Christian values. But however, on this, for the sake of my Islam brothers, for the sake of my Hindu brothers, let it be known that I said it should not be that, because we are supposed to serve all Kenyans regardless of their faith. If this government served all Kenyans equally, not even this government, even the previous governments, Hamid Maka, my favorite Muslim, would not be dead. He died a young man. And actually, it's not like it's a matter of religion and morality or not. Because around the world, we've seen how theocratic states use religion as a shield for power. They justify extravagance and actually silence criticism. Dictators hide behind pulpits, preaching piety, while their people are suffering in poverty. Could be Kenya slowly by slowly be inching into that direction? Faith is personal. Governance is public. Remember, we said that government is a necessary evil. And all leaders must know that faith is personal. And that is why I have to respect your faith, whether I agree with it or not. It's not up to me to choose who you are to serve. For me, I say, choose who you will serve. But as for me and my house, I will serve the Lord. That is what I say. Wewe ukiamua kuomba mti, ukiamua kuomba Allah, choice ni yako, just be a good person. We don't need sanctuaries. We don't need houses of prayer built on the backs of poor. We actually need hospitals. We need classrooms. We need affordable food. We need jobs. We actually need leaders who exude frugality. and not extravagance. And the question that we must always ask is, are we building altars for God when we are building all these big churches, or are they just monuments for our own ego? I don't think legacies are built on monuments. Legacies are built on values, on action, not monuments. When we look at the picture of Dedan Kimathi, we don't look at it as such a beautiful monument, but it is what it triggers us to. Christians have the cross. It triggers them to remember about the passion of Jesus Christ. Faith, we might argue that yes, we need God. We all need God. We all need supernatural. Because for me, if you ask me about religion, from all I've questioned about religion and always saying that it's a necessary evil, is because in as much as I would want to say that religion is a necessary evil, I can personally testify and say that I have seen miracles in my life. I know you might not believe in miracles or not, but personally, I am a living testimony that miracles are there. But what is the nexus between the natural and the supernatural? The natural and supernatural work together in tandem. They work together. There's a story told of a pastor who was called by one of his believers, waumini wake, kondo wake, akamuita akamwambia, hey pastor, shamba yangu haendelee vizuri, inaendelea vibaya sana. Naomba ukuje uniombee, sijui ni nini inaendelea kwa shamba yangu. So the pastor came to see the shamba, only to come and realize that it was the crop was experiencing stunted growth. But when he looked at it, he told this Christian that, hey, brother, this shamba of yours does not need prayers. It actually needs weeding and fertilizer. Because if you want God to help you, then you also have to help yourself. Your faith has to always be in action. Even when Jesus was doing miracles, you would have to bring something to him. Remember that woman who was bleeding? Lazima angeng'ang'ana, Wakikuyu sema kugiginyana. Anagiginyana, akagiginyana hadi akashika clock ya Mungu. Even Jesus felt it and he had, who touched me? Because of that kugiginyana. Remember the tax collector mwenye alipanda the tree? The effort, human effort, the natural. You have to do the natural for the supernatural to happen. Remember the feeding of the 5,000? You have to, what do you have? Loaf na bread mnaleta. Akiwatengenezea ka kinywaji, kamnyweso. They had to bring the jars. There has to be that personal input. Akiponya yule ambaye alikuwa anampitisha, kuna watu walimpitisha kwa dirisha. There has to be that personal effort. Even Jesus himself akifanya miracles. All his miracles were defined by personal effort. Even when he was multiplying, there was something to multiply. God cannot multiply to zero. Uko hapo tu unaomba Mungu, oh God, I have so many problems. Hey, it is shetani. By the way, one problem I have with Christians is venye sisi wekelea shetani shida. Watu tunamwekelea shetani. Shetani receives a lot of stray bullets. Na sijui, ama Christian lakini saa zingine mimi feel shetani uhitaji lawyer. Mwanaume mzima Mkristo na akili zako, unaenda unajiingiza kwa brothel. Nasema ni shetani. Ni shetani. Shetani alikuwa busy huko Gaza, analipua wase. Hata hakuwa na noma nawe. Hakuwa nakumbuka. Wewe na akili zako timamu ukaenda ukajiingiza kwa ngori. Ukafanya dhambi. Then you blame it on the devil. And mwingine anasema, nitakunywa pombe ndio nikienda nichokozani ikwe ni hiyo pombe. Or you drink deliberately, you overindulge just because you want to sin. And that's why I think most people unapatanga wako na shida, because you want to blame it on something else. And now you say nimekosa nini, but you want to compensate with doing something good. Christians, we have this thing of kuona ni kama tunaweza honga Mungu, like unaweza mtolea tu Mungu nikaa ni polisi fulani, Mungu wenyewe sijakuwa hapo lakini shika hii nini. It does not work the same. Because God needs faith in action. And actually, legacies are created by, not by the amount of buildings that you create. Remember, all these things, we leave them here. Christians, we say that we shall know people by their fruits. The kind of fruits that they exude, the kind of things they do, ndio zitatuonyesha matunda yao. Na hayo ndio, that is what will build the Kenyan legacy. But we are built on a country that has believed in the supernatural so much that we've forgotten the natural, the effort that God requires of us. Lakini prosperity gospel ndio inakuanga Kenya. A prosperity gospel, mimi as a Catholic, your prosperity gospel played a key role kutuwekea hii gawa. And now, these are the consequences we are facing. Just because we have what I would call semi-illiterate. We are suffering, Kenyans, we are suffering from semi-illiteracy. We are also suffering from religious fanaticism. Religious fanaticism mbaya sana that we should overcome as a country. And that is what has gotten us here. But now, remember that choices have consequences. And unlike choices, that you can make a decision, when it comes to consequences, you can never choose. That has been my time. I think this is, one of the longest episodes I've ever done so far, especially speaking about the same thing. But if you really think that this is a conversation that sparked your thoughts, intrigued you, feel free to like, subscribe, and also share to someone who might find the same conversation interesting. And let's meet as we discuss something else. And until then, just remember to keep warm, stay safe, above all, keep questioning. Till next time, adios.